Okay, so I'm gonna try to talk a little louder on this one. We're gonna look at something a little bit older. It's PAN 1-2. I don't know if anyone's still struggling on this one. If you are, hopefully this will help. The whole point of this standard is to go from normal to scientific and scientific to normal. Um, you need to know how to type it into the calculator and all that. It'll just help you get these done a million times faster. You're gonna have numbers like, oh, let's not do that. And it's a pretty big number. You're gonna want to turn that into scientific notation. We're gonna say that this is too long to write. When you try to write it in scientific, you're going to use the calculator and you're gonna go to mode and then go down to scientific, press enter, and then press clear. That will get you into scientific. And then whenever you type the number in, you should get 1.23456789 times 10 to the 8th. Okay, so it looks a lot worse. That's because you don't want to write all those decimals. We're just going to call it 1.24 times 10 to the 8th. Same thing, it's just a lot shorter. If you're online, you're going to want to use the scientific notation converter. Um, that will help you get these done a lot faster. I'm just going to write this down here just in case. If you're online, use the converter. It's the quickest way to get it done, so you don't have to think about how to do it by hand. And honestly, that's the way I would do it if I was in school. Just a quick thing off to the side. When you're looking at scientific notation numbers, they all look like this. It's like some number in the front times 10 to the some power. You're gonna want to look really hard at the first number, and you're gonna want to make sure that that one is between 1 and 10. Okay, so it needs to be between 1 and 10. If it's not, it's okay. You just have to type it into the calculator or to the converter. Turn it into scientific so you'll always know what it is. If it is between 1 and 10, then the number is scientific. If it's not, then you need to find out what it is, especially if you're trying to compare the numbers. Okay. This is also, just how you go from normal to scientific. The other direction you might go is from scientific back to normal. Okay, that is starting out with a scientific notation number and then turning it into something that is normal. You can say something like 1.86 times 10 to the 7th. You're going to type that into your calculator. You want to make sure that you go to mode, go down to norm, press enter, and then press clear. That will get your calculator back into the normal mode. And then when you type this in, it's going to show you on the calculator the answer, which is 18,600,000. That number is not so big. It's, a lot better for bigger numbers, but the calculator can't hold a lot of digits, so that's probably the best it can do. If you're online, you're going to want to use the online calculator. You could just use the one on Desmos, and it will do this, or you could use the converter. That's, only if you're online. If you're at the school, I would always prefer the calculators. They're just a lot better. It'll get stuff done quicker. All right. The other thing we were struggling with was ordering these things, ordering the numbers. So to get that done easily, I'm just going to write a couple. Something like 12.6, 1.32, 2.63, 542, 130. Okay. And they're all going to be times 10 to the power of something. It's just the way it goes when you're doing scientific notation. Say the first one's 12, maybe 12, 11, 11, 10. So it might look like they're in order already, you know? The biggest numbers up here, the lowest ones all the way at the bottom. That's not actually in order, so we're gonna have to do a little bit better than that. We're gonna try to put them in order from least to greatest. To do that, you're gonna want to make sure that all the numbers are written in scientific notation. I'm gonna rewrite them. This one's gonna turn into 1.26 times 10 to the 13. Make sure you just type them into the calculator. It'll be a lot easier. If you figure out how the calculator's doing it, feel free to just do it by hand. It might end up being faster. You just need to practice a lot. Okay. And the last two are 5.42 times 10 to the 13. And the very bottom one is 1.30 times 10 to the 12th. Okay, so to put these in order from least to greatest, you're going to want to pay attention to two things. The first thing is the power of the numbers. After you look at the power, you're going to want to look at the actual numbers. If the powers are the same, that's when you start comparing the number itself. If the powers are different, then you can start putting them in order right away. This one, we're going to try to go from least to greatest. So it looks like this one is the smallest power. So we're going to put that number first. So the first number is 2.63 times 10 to the 11th. You don't have to cross it out or anything, you can just write it. I usually just write it as I'm going, so I don't have to put numbers by it. You could also number them. You could say this is first. You could put that right by it, like, number one. I don't do that, so I'm going to get rid of it. You can do it all you want. It might help. After 11, the biggest number after that is 12. There are two of these with 12. You have this one and this one. So if they both are 12s, you're going to have to look, like I said, at the actual number. This one, they're both 1s. So you're going to go to the next one. It's a 3. So then we're going to probably just have to go to the last one. It's a 2 or a 0. I would say the 0 is smaller. If you don't know, just check out a number line. 1.30 times 10 to the 12th. So then after that, we'll put the other one, which is 1.32 times 10 to the 12th. Okay, so we're getting some progress here. The last one is 13, power of 13. There's two of them. One of them is 1.26. The other one is 5.42. So I don't really need to do a lot of work to figure out which one of those is bigger. I'm going to say the 5 is bigger, so I'm going to write 1.26 first because I'm doing least to greatest. Okay. All right, so I've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. That's what I started out with, so this looks good. That's in order. Um, they get a little bit harder sometimes just because the numbers get really close. Other than that, it can't really get that difficult. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to just a quick last example on if the powers are negative. If you think you're good to go, that's fine. Try to get the assignments done that involved PAN 1, 2. If you want a little bit more help, I'm gonna do one more thing. So still ordering numbers. I'm going to put some different numbers. These ones will be negative. All right. So these ones are all negative powers. They're all also really close together. We'll try to do the same thing we did on the last one. I'll try to put these in order from least to greatest. Negative numbers get a little tricky. It'll probably mess the most people up, but it's not that much harder. To save some time, I just went ahead and made sure these were all in scientific so I could focus more on how to compare them. The first thing you want to know is how a number line looks. I'm going to try to draw one as good as I can. We'll put 0 over here because that's, I'm more concerned with negative numbers right now. All right. So when you're looking at negatives, the bigger ones are going to be to the left. These are the lower numbers. And then when you go to the right, it gets greater. So the bigger numbers with negatives are going to be lower. So when you're going least to greatest, those ones come first. So you need to look at the powers and you need to find the biggest one. And we're going to put that one first. The biggest one looks like it's the -5. So that number is going to be first. So you got 4.0 times 10 to the -5. After that, the next biggest would be -4. There's only one of them. So then it's 3.6 times 10 to the -4. Okay, and then after that, there's three things with -3, and that's where you have to get a little tricky because you start looking at the numbers. So there's a 6, 4, and a 1. We need to put them in least to greatest. So the smallest one is the 1. Next biggest is 4, and then the 6, and I'm just going to write them out. I could do better than that. Hold on. Okay. All right. That's 5 numbers. That's what I was trying to put in order. It was just 5. So this one is done. That's really all there is to scientific notation at the beginning before you start doing any math with them. So make sure you know how to do all this, and you will be flying along. Thank you. Email me if you got any questions on this. It's PAN12.